Please give crash course on Canadian history from Indigenous peoples to French and British colonization to modern-day multiculturalism, with detailed timeline and interesting stories for our readers to provide insight into Canada's culture and identity. Canada has a rich and complex history that spans thousands of years, beginning with the Indigenous peoples who first inhabited the land. Here is a crash course on Canadian history, from Indigenous peoples to modern-day multiculturalism. Indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples have lived in Canada for thousands of years before the arrival of European settlers. These diverse groups of people developed unique cultures, languages, and ways of life that were closely tied to the land. Many Indigenous nations engaged in trade and diplomatic relations with each other, long before the arrival of European settlers. The arrival of Europeans, however, had a devastating impact on Indigenous peoples, including the spread of diseases and the loss of land and resources. French and British colonization. Asterisk in the 16th and 17th centuries, French explorers began to explore and settle what is now Canada. The French established a fur trade with Indigenous peoples, which helped to build their colonies. Asterisk in 1763, following the 7 Years' War, the French ceded their Canadian territories to the British. British colonization brought about significant changes in Canada, including the creation of new provinces and territories, the introduction of new systems of government, and the arrival of large numbers of immigrants from Europe. Confederation. Asterisk in 1867, the British North America Act created the Dominion of Canada, which united the colonies of Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick into a single country. Over the following decades, Canada continued to expand its territories and establish new provinces and territories, including Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia. World Wars and beyond. Canada played a significant role in both World War I and World War II, with thousands of Canadians serving in the armed forces. After World War II, Canada experienced a period of significant growth and prosperity, with the development of new industries and the expansion of social programs and infrastructure. Asterisk in the latter half of the 20th century, Canada became increasingly diverse, with significant waves of immigration from around the world. Today, Canada is known for its multiculturalism and commitment to human rights and social justice. Some interesting stories from Canadian history include: A. The story of Louis Riel, a Métis leader who fought for the rights of his people and was eventually executed for his role in the Northwest Rebellion of 1885. B. The Canadian government's policy of residential schools, which aimed to assimilate Indigenous children into European Canadian culture, had a devastating impact on Indigenous communities. C. The role of Canadian soldiers in the D-Day invasion during World War II, which played a significant role in the Allied victory. D. The Quebec sovereignty movement, which has sought to establish Quebec as a separate, independent nation within Canada. E. The adoption of multiculturalism as an official policy in the 1970s, which has helped to shape Canada's identity as a diverse and inclusive nation. Here is a more detailed timeline of Canadian history. Pre-contact to early exploration. Indigenous peoples have lived in what is now Canada for over 12,000 years. Indigenous groups developed unique cultures, languages, and ways of life, including hunting, fishing, and agriculture. Asterisk in the 11th century, the Vikings established a short-lived settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland. French colonization. Asterisk in the 16th century, French explorers including Jacques Cartier began to explore the St. Lawrence River. Asterisk in 1608, Samuel de Champlain established Quebec City, the first permanent French settlement in Canada. The French established a fur trade with Indigenous peoples, which helped to build their colonies. The French and Indigenous peoples formed alliances and engaged in trade and diplomatic relations. British colonization. Asterisk in 1713, the Treaty of Utrecht gave the British control of Newfoundland and Acadia, present-day Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. Asterisk in 1763, following the 7 Years' War, the British gained control of Quebec and the rest of the French colonies in Canada. Asterisk in 1791, the Constitutional Act divided Quebec into two provinces, Upper Canada, present-day Ontario, and Lower Canada, present-day Quebec. Asterisk in 1867, the British North America Act created the Dominion of Canada, which united the colonies of Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick into a single country. Confederation and Expansion. In 1870, Manitoba joined Confederation as the fifth province. In 1871, British Columbia joined Confederation as the sixth province. In 1905, Saskatchewan and Alberta joined Confederation as the seventh and eighth provinces. In 1949, Newfoundland joined Confederation as the 10th province. World Wars and beyond. Canada played a significant role in both World War I and World War II, with thousands of Canadians serving in the armed forces. In 1949, Canada joined NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. In 1965, Canada adopted its current flag, replacing the Union Jack with the maple leaf. In the latter half of the 20th century, Canada became increasingly diverse, with significant waves of immigration from around the world. In the 1980s and 1990s, Quebec held two referendums on sovereignty, but in both cases, a majority of voters chose to remain part of Canada. In 1982, the Canadian Constitution was repatriated from Britain, and a Charter of Rights and Freedoms was added to protect fundamental human rights. Multiculturalism and beyond. In the 1970s, Canada adopted multiculturalism as an official policy, recognizing the value of diversity and promoting equal treatment for all. In 2015, Justin Trudeau became Canada's first Prime Minister to appoint a gender-balanced cabinet. In recent years, Canada has faced challenges related to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, including the legacy of residential schools and the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Canada continues to be a leader in human rights and social justice, with a commitment to environmental protection and a welcoming attitude toward refugees and immigrants. These are just a few highlights of Canadian history, which is a rich and complex tapestry of cultures, peoples, and events.